Have you ever wondered why some people seem to live their entire lives in happiness, while others, no matter how hard they try, still feel empty? And here's the twist. Sometimes the reason isn't about what you're missing, but what you're doing every single day. You might think you're doing everything right. But what if I told you there are certain habits you believe are helping you, habits you've trusted for years, that are actually holding you back? Slowly, silently, they're draining your happiness and keeping you from the life you deserve. In this video, I'll reveal 10 habits that could be sabotaging your happiness and preventing you from living fully. But here's the catch. The worst habit of all might just be the one you trust the most. Stick around until the end, because what you discover today could change how you see your entire life. Are you ready? Let's dive in. How many times in your life have you nodded along, agreed with someone, or stayed silent just to avoid conflict? It's so common, especially as we get older, to believe that keeping the peace is the right thing to do. But here's the harsh truth. Every time you say yes when your heart screams no, you're giving away a little piece of yourself. Think about it. How often have you agreed to something you didn't truly believe in? Maybe it was to avoid an argument, maybe because you didn't want to rock the boat. At first, it might seem harmless. But over time, this habit slowly chips away at your self-worth. You start to lose sight of who you are, what you stand for, and what truly matters to you. Here's the bigger problem. When you agree with everything, people begin to assume your voice doesn't matter. They make decisions on your behalf, whether they mean to or not. And before you know it, you're living a life designed by others, not by you. But what if, starting today, you chose to stand your ground? To speak up for what you believe in, even if it's uncomfortable? Reclaiming your voice might feel difficult at first, but it's one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself. And let me ask you this. If you continue agreeing with everything and silencing your inner voice, where will it leave you in the years to come? Will you recognize the person staring back at you in the mirror? Keep watching, because as we go deeper, you'll discover how some of the habits you trust the most might be doing more harm than good. And trust me, the biggest surprise is still ahead. It's easy to pull back from people as we get older. Maybe you tell yourself, "I'm too tired for that gathering," or "No one really understands me anymore." And sure, spending time alone can be peaceful. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Isolation isn't just about being alone. It's about cutting yourself off from the very things that give life its meaning. And let's be real, isolation is tempting. It feels easier to avoid the energy it takes to maintain friendships or meet new people. But the cost of retreating is far greater than you realize. Studies show that prolonged isolation doesn't just impact your emotional well-being, it can physically harm you. Increased risk of heart disease, depression, and even cognitive decline are all linked to loneliness. Yes, loneliness can actually age you faster than almost anything else. Now here's where it gets controversial. You might think, but I've earned the right to some peace and quiet. After all, I've spent decades around people. While that's true, peace isn't the same as complete disconnection. When you cut yourself off, you're not protecting your energy, you're starving your soul. Humans are wired for connection. Without it, something inside us starts to wither. And let me challenge you here. Have you been using "I'm fine alone" as an excuse? Are you truly fine, or are you just avoiding the vulnerability it takes to reach out? Think about it. When was the last time you picked up the phone to call an old friend? Or said yes to an invitation, even if it felt a little out of your comfort zone? The truth is, meaningful relationships don't just bring joy, they keep you alive, emotionally and physically. If you're still here, stay with me, because what comes next might challenge everything you think you know about living a full life. And remember, the biggest twist is waiting for you at the end. How often have you told yourself, "What's the point? I'm too old for exercise," or "Eating healthy won't change anything at my age"? It's a comforting excuse, but let's be honest, This mindset is one of the most dangerous traps you can fall into. Here's the hard truth. Neglecting your health because you think it's too late is like giving up on yourself. And no matter how old you are, small, intentional changes can still create enormous improvements. Did you know that even light physical activity, like a short walk or some simple stretches, can dramatically improve your mobility and reduce the risk of falls? Or that a balanced diet can boost your energy and help stave off chronic diseases like diabetes or heart issues? And here's where it gets controversial. Some people might argue that life is too short to care about these things. They'll say, why not just enjoy yourself? Eat what you want and do whatever feels good. But let me ask you this. Is struggling with pain, fatigue, or preventable health issues truly enjoying yourself? Taking care of your body isn't about trying to turn back the clock. It's about honoring the years ahead and ensuring those years are as vibrant and fulfilling as possible. Now let's dig even deeper. What if the belief that it's too late is just a convenient excuse? Something you tell yourself to avoid the discomfort of starting over? Imagine how different your life could feel if you started today, even with the smallest of changes. So let me ask you, do you want to feel better in the years to come, or are you comfortable letting your health slowly slip away? The choice is always yours. And remember, the habits we're covering here are only the tip of the iceberg. Stay with me because what's coming will completely shift how you see your life. The twist you won't expect is still ahead. Do you ever find yourself replaying the good old days in your mind? Maybe you think about how life used to be when you were younger, stronger, or surrounded by different people. It's natural to reminisce, but here's the hard truth. If you're living in the past, you're robbing yourself of the beauty and potential of the present. And let's be honest, many of us fall into this trap. We tell ourselves that the best days are behind us, that the excitement and joy of life are things of the past. But this kind of thinking isn't just limiting, it's dangerous. By clinging to memories, you blind yourself to the opportunities and joys that are right in front of you. Here's a question for you. How often do you find yourself thinking, if only I had done this differently, or I wish things had turned out another way? Regret is a heavy burden, but carrying it doesn't change a thing. Worse, it keeps you stuck, unable to fully embrace what's still ahead of you. Now, here's the controversial part. Some people argue that looking back is a way of preserving who we are, of honoring our history. And while there's truth in that, there's a fine line between cherishing memories and letting them trap you. The past is a part of your story, but it's not the whole book. What if, instead of mourning what's gone, you started focusing on what you can create now? Whether it's picking up a new hobby, reconnecting with someone you've lost touch with, or simply being present in the little moments, every day is a chance to turn the page and start a new chapter. So let me ask you this. Are you ready to stop looking backward and start moving forward? The best moments of your life may not be behind you, they could be right in front of you. Stay with me because the closer we get to the end, the more you'll realize how these habits tie together. And trust me, the biggest realization is still to come. Have you spent most of your life putting others first? Maybe it was your children, your partner, or your family. You've given so much of yourself to ensure their happiness, their success, and their well-being. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly felt happy? It's noble to care for others. It's one of the most beautiful parts of being human. But here's the harsh reality. When you constantly put everyone else's needs ahead of your own, you start to lose yourself. Over time, it becomes a cycle where others expect you to sacrifice, and you begin to feel invisible. And here's the kicker. Some of the people you're sacrificing for may not even realize or appreciate the depth of what you've given up. Take Oprah Winfrey, for example. She once said, "You cannot pour from an empty cup. Take care of yourself first." Oprah learned this lesson after years of giving everything to her work, her friends, and even strangers. She realized that by neglecting herself, she was losing the energy and joy that allowed her to make a real difference in the world. And here's the controversial part. Some people may call self-care selfish. But is it really selfish to say no when you're exhausted? Is it selfish to carve out time for the things that bring you joy? Or is it simply recognizing that your happiness matters just as much as anyone else's? Think about it. How many times have you said yes to something you didn't want to do just to avoid guilt or conflict? How often have you postponed your dreams, telling yourself, "I'll do it someday"? What if that someday never comes? It's time to stop sacrificing your happiness for everyone else. Take that trip you've always dreamed of. Spend time nurturing your passions. Remember, when you prioritize yourself, you're not just helping yourself. You're setting an example for others. Stay with me, because the closer we get to the end, the more you'll see how each of these habits connects. And trust me, the final twist will challenge everything you think you know about what's holding you back. Do you ever find yourself saying, "I don't need help, I can handle this"? Maybe you've always been the dependable one, the rock for your family, the person everyone turns to. And while that's admirable, it's also exhausting. Here's the truth. Ignoring your physical and emotional limits doesn't make you strong. It makes you vulnerable to burnout, to injury, and to an overwhelming sense of being alone in your struggles. Take the example of Maya Angelou, one of the greatest voices in literature and activism. She once said, "Ask for help not because you're weak, but because you want to remain strong." Even someone as wise and accomplished as Maya understood that strength comes not from doing it all, but from knowing when to say, "I need help." But let's be honest, it's hard to admit that you can't do everything. Society has taught us that asking for help is a sign of weakness, especially as we get older. Some people even fear being seen as incapable or past their prime. But let me challenge that thinking. Is it really strength to push yourself to the point of exhaustion, or is true strength found in knowing your limits and respecting them? Think about it. How many people have you known who refuse to slow down only to face serious health issues or burnout? How many times have you ignored the warning signs from your own body because you felt like you had to keep going? What if, instead of trying to do it all, you gave yourself permission to rest, to delegate, to trust others to share the load? Respecting your limits isn't giving up, it's giving yourself the chance to thrive. And here's the real question. If you keep ignoring your limits, what will you have left to give? To yourself, to your loved ones, to the things that truly matter? As we move closer to the end, you'll see how this habit, along with all the others, is connected. And don't forget, the biggest surprise is still waiting for you. Keep watching, because what you discover next might just change the way you live your life. Let's talk about something people rarely discuss openly: intimacy as we age. Do you find yourself thinking, "I'm too old for that," or "it doesn't matter anymore"? If so, you're not alone. Many people avoid intimacy, whether emotional or physical, because they feel it's no longer appropriate or that it doesn't fit with their stage of life. But here's the truth. Intimacy has no expiration date. In fact, it becomes even more meaningful as we grow older. It's not just about physical connection. It's about feeling close to someone, sharing your vulnerabilities, and experiencing joy through companionship. And yet, so many people deny themselves this vital part of life because they've internalized society's false narratives about aging. Even Jane Fonda, a celebrated actress and advocate, once shared that her most fulfilling relationships began later in life. She said, "The older I get, the more I understand the value of connection." It's not about age, it's about willingness to open up and let someone in. Now, here's where it gets controversial. Avoiding intimacy doesn't protect you, it isolates you. Many people say they're fine without it, but deep down, there's often a longing for connection that goes unmet. And when you close yourself off, you're not just avoiding relationships. You're avoiding the part of yourself that craves love, closeness, and the feeling of being truly seen. Ask yourself this: are you avoiding intimacy because you genuinely don't want it, or because you've convinced yourself it's no longer an option? What if you allowed yourself to be open to the possibility of connection again? Whether it's a deep conversation with a friend, a new relationship, or simply being more present with your loved ones, intimacy can bring so much richness to your life. And here's a thought: what if the love and connection you think you've left behind are still waiting for you right around the corner? As we near the end of this video, let's pull everything together. Each of these habits is interconnected, and the final twist will make you see why these changes are so important. Stay with me. What's coming next will challenge everything you thought about your life and what's truly holding you back. We've talked about 7 habits that might be silently holding you back. Habits that seem harmless, even logical, but could be robbing you of joy, connection, and fulfillment. Now, let's take a step back and ask the question that ties everything together. What if the biggest thing holding you back isn't the habits themselves, but the belief that it's too late to change? That's the real enemy here. It's not agreeing too often, isolating yourself, neglecting your health, or avoiding intimacy. It's the quiet voice in your head that says, "What's the point? I'm too old to fix this now." And here's the twist: that voice is lying to you. Society loves to tell us that life peaks in youth, that the older we get, the fewer opportunities we have to grow, to love, to thrive. But the truth is, your greatest years could still be ahead of you. Some of the most inspiring people in history, like Colonel Sanders, who founded KFC at 65, or Grandma Moses, who started her painting career in her late 70s, profoundly changed their lives at an age when most people would have given up. So here's the controversy: if they could do it, why not you? Is it really your age holding you back, or is it your mindset? Let me ask you this: what story have you been telling yourself about what's possible for you? Because here's the truth: if you believe it's too late, it will be. But if you believe you still have time to grow, to heal, to create, then life can surprise you in the best possible ways. Now it's your turn. Take a moment to reflect. Which of these 7 habits feels the most familiar to you? Which one has been quietly shaping your life without you even realizing it? And here's the challenge: what's one small step you can take today to change it? Maybe it's making that phone call you've been putting off, or saying no to something that doesn't align with your values, or even just taking a short walk to honor your health. Whatever it is, start now. Because the only thing standing between you and a richer, more fulfilling life is the belief that you can't have it. And here's the controversial truth: no one's going to hand you your happiness. Not your family, not your friends, not even time itself. You have to take it back. If this video resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me, do you agree that it's never too late, or do you think some things are out of reach? I want to hear your perspective. And don't forget, like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future content. Together, let's rewrite the story of what's possible in this stage of life. Because here's the twist: the best part of your life? It's not behind you, it's still ahead.